President Obama is, at this point, a white president in blackface.
Oh,
Black
wow.
America would have done much better with a white president. Look at the numbers.
All right.
President Obama, you have let us down tremendously.
Okay.
You have let us down. I'm disappointed that President Obama called those young men out there in Baltimore thugs. And I'm not condoning violence.
Of course not.
But I don't think we should call them thugs because we've positioned them to fail.
Yeah.
And the system has failed them.
All right, folks, joining us now, as mentioned, is Byron Allen. You know him, of course, from The Youngest Guy Ever to Be on The Tonight Show and former host of NBC's Real People, Comics Unleashed. But he's also, of course, chairman and CEO of Entertainment Studios. Byron, welcome back to the show, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Now, I know you've defended these remarks, the blackface comment. Let's start with that. What kind of, I don't know, grief or reaction have you gotten after making the remarks about the president being a white president in blackface?
Oh, I mean, look, you have people who found it outrageous, but it's really about looking at the numbers. You know, this started with President Obama calling us names, calling us thugs, calling us criminals, when he knows that we as African Americans have been positioned to fail. Before you call us thugs, before you call us criminals, make sure we get a proper education. These kids aren't getting the education they need to get out of high school, to get into college, and to graduate from college. Make sure that we can get jobs. Unemployment under President Obama has increased. Under President Bush, unemployment in the black community was 10%. Under President Obama, for the black community, it has increased 40% to 14%, when unemployment for the white community has dropped 25% from 8% to under 6%. President Obama, you have bailed out the banks in America to the tune of $700 billion. And these banks are not lending money to black people. Black home ownership is down at an all-time low, 25-year low. Banks are not lending money to black people so black people can start businesses, have businesses, expand businesses. 60% of the people in this country are employed by small businesses, but we can't employ people in our community because we don't have access to capital. So before you call us thugs and criminals, make sure we have access to capital. President Obama, you control over $2 billion in advertising money. Join the Army, join the Navy, join the Marines. None of that is being spent with black-owned newspapers and radio stations. Those are jobs in our community. President Obama, you control $1 trillion in government pension fund money. None of it managed by black people, none of it invested in the black community. President Obama has a horrible habit of speaking down to black America and reprimanding black men. Now, you have these white bikers go through Waco and shoot up Waco. He didn't call them thugs or criminals. This man even commented on Kanye West being on the MTV Music Awards and called him a jackass because of his behavior. Now, you have a situation where AT&T, the president of AT&T, because Nomi King brought it forward, she worked at AT&T for 30 years and she's now sued them. The president of AT&T got caught calling us, and the chairman of AT&T, Randall Stevenson, and the board of AT&T did not fire him when that was brought to his attention a year and a half ago, but rather he was promoted and given a raise and paid more money. These people, and President Obama didn't call them names. President Obama let AT&T get bigger and make more money. AT&T is now buying DirecTV for $67.5 billion, and Randall Stevenson is going to pay himself $40 million a year. So President Obama, if you're going to reprimand those kids in Baltimore who don't have jobs and don't have access to capital, and you're going to reprimand Kanye West, what are you going to say to Randall Stevenson for covering up at AT&T, calling us This is unacceptable. As they say in the Jewish community, this is a shanda. This is a crime. You know it's a crime. Shame on you.
Right,
and we're not going to have black people worse off with you coming out of the office than when you went into the office. It's not going to happen.
Well,
I'm not mad at you, but I am holding you accountable.
Why is it? You mentioned unemployment under George W. Bush in the black community and it being worse now, for instance, and you mentioned a litany of things. Is it because George W. Bush, I mean, had more empathy and more sympathy for the black community than Obama does? What's the reason, do you believe?
The numbers seem to say that. The numbers seem to prove that.
Do you believe that? Do you believe that?
I believe that the numbers are unacceptable.
No, Byron, but do you believe that, I mean, you called him a white guy in blackface, you said things, and you're saying the numbers...
Let me be clear about that. But, you know, when he called us thugs and criminals, I expected to hear that from a white man, not the first black president of the United States.
All right, you never would have heard it. You might not have heard it from George W. Bush. So my answer to you is, did George W. Bush show more caring and sensitivity and sympathy and empathy to the black community than Barack Obama has shown?
Absolutely. And let me tell you something. Both Bush and Clinton employed more black people in their cabinets. Look at the numbers. Look at the numbers. I mean, he's got this new attorney general, and they're going after, you know, soccer. They're going after soccer. People corrupt soccer. I don't care about corruption in soccer. We got the biggest telecommunications company in the world calling us, and you're letting them get bigger, and you're chasing rich guys who are being corrupt in soccer. Who cares? We're dying in the streets.
All right, let me ask you.
We're dying in the boardrooms, and we're dying in the courtroom.
All right, you say that the system's been rigged in effect, and it's been, blacks are designed to fail. You didn't fail.
We're not designed to fail. We've been positioned to fail. This is an extension of Jim Crow. No access to education.
Byron, what do you mean no access to education? You know, Baltimore spends, Byron, let me just say something. Baltimore, and I'm with you on so much of this, and far be it from me to defend Barack Obama on anything, but Baltimore and Newark could probably have the 2 largest per capita per student in the country, and they're the worst school systems in the world.
Well, my man, wake up. We just said the same thing. You have to improve the education system. You have to make sure these schools are giving them a proper education. I said that. That's what has to happen.
Well, how do you do that? Because everybody wants to pour more money and more money and more money.
The way you do it is you invest the money with the right people. It's not being invested. You have to make sure the system is working. And by the way, this is an American problem. I am not asking you to be the black president. I'm asking you to be the president of the United States. This is an American problem. This is an American crisis. This is a threat to national security. We don't even have enough intellectual capital to maintain engineers in places where we have really highly confidential information to protect the American security. This is an American crisis. This is a threat to, this isn't Black America versus white America. This is America against the world.
All right.
As America, there are only 327 million people out of 7 billion people.
All right, we're coming back. Byron, we got another segment. We're coming back with more. I want to discuss some solutions and some things about Baltimore. Don't go away. More with Byron coming up.
And I say to President Obama, you have to remember who you are.
Right.
Don't forget who you are.
Don't forget who you are, brother, up in the White House,
Don't forget who you are. And I have grave concerns about President Obama because I feel that it's factual. Check the numbers. Black people have fallen further behind under President Obama.
All right, then rejoining us again for another segment, I'm happy to say, is Byron Allen, Chairman, CEO of Entertainment Studios. Byron, you know, again, is it, you expected Barack Obama to do more, but is
Absolutely.
it? No, wait, let me finish. And I agree with you. But I mean, the first thing he did was took away the vouchers for kids in the worst school district in the world, Washington, D.C. So their brothers and sisters of the kids who use those vouchers to go to good schools in D.C., they had no hope all of a sudden to join their siblings. But that aside, isn't this really the result when you look at Baltimore, you look at Chicago, you look at so many cities and so many failed circumstances? Isn't this the result of decades of failed Democrat policy that may mean well but doesn't work?
No, this is simply the failure of us not making it a priority. There's no excuse. It's not the Democrats, it's not the Republicans. I don't care about politicians. I don't even like most politicians. I love America, and I love Black America, and I love all Americans, and I want America to be stronger. There are no excuses. We must improve education. We must do it now. We must make sure. Look, Martin Luther King gave us the greatest speech 50 years ago. He told us 50 years ago, there are two Americas. One America has economic inclusion and access to education, and the other America doesn't. And two Americas will not survive.
All right, but Byron, on the issue of education, it is a left-right thing and a teachers union thing. If there was competition, you're a businessman, if there was competition in education and parents in these horrific cities with horrific schools were given vouchers and people were free to start up schools and parents could shop around for the best school with those vouchers. Now, the teachers unions don't want that. The Democrats don't want that, but the Republicans do. Isn't that an alternative and an answer and something that should be tried?
Everything should be tried. It's a crisis. You're watching people riot in the streets. Whatever we need to do, President Obama, it needs to be fixed now. You have to address it now. You can't reprimand us and tell us as Black people, get in your place, stay in your place, and you got rich white people like Randall Stevenson and AT&T covering up, calling us.
Just to be fair,
the racism is institutionalized.
Every time you say that word, you know, my editors are going nuts because they got to bleep it out because that's the world in which we live in. Even though you're saying it.
You know what? It's harsh, but that's what they said. That's what they did, and America has to face it.
All right, let me ask you this:
AT&T accountable.
All right, I don't believe, and I don't think you believe that in the next year and a few months, Obama's going to step up and help the Black community.
Help the American community by addressing the Black crisis, which is an American crisis.
Well, he's not going to do that either because he had 7 years to do it and he hasn't done it. So let's assume he doesn't, or let's assume he starts. What's your message to Hillary Clinton in particular and other possible presidential candidates in general?
You're not going to see the inside of the White House unless you deal with the American crisis. And the American crisis is the Black crisis. You can't have that level of unemployment. You can't have that decay in our educational system. Everybody needs to have access to capital. America needs to be the American dream for every American and not the American dream for some Americans and the American nightmare for others.
But Byron, Blacks voted for Barack Obama twice to the tune of 90-some-odd%. Wait. And they're going to vote for Hillary to the tune of at least 90%, or whoever the Democratic candidate is. They always do.
You know what? I wouldn't bet on that one because now I'm speaking loud and clear and I'm on Black radio all day and all night. And I'm saying this time you're going to vote based on the numbers and you're going to have a demand. The gay community was brilliant. They had a demand. They wanted gay marriage and they got it. The Hispanic community was brilliant. They had a demand. They wanted immigration reform. They got it. The Jewish community was brilliant. They wanted Israel protected. They got it. The Black community, this time you're going to have a demand because we've got to get off this modern day plantation. You have access to nothing but gangs, drugs, alcohol, and violence. It's economic genocide, and it must stop now.
All right, let me ask you this. Barack Obama wouldn't accept your invitation. You never heard back from him. You wanted to meet with him. Will you here now extend that invitation and follow up to Hillary Clinton?
Absolutely. I will sit down. I'm not mad at President Barack Obama. I went to a lot of $40,000 couple dinners. And one of those $40,000 couple dinners that I went to, many of them, I gave him a letter and I said, we have a crisis and I want to talk to you about it. He said, I'm going to get back to you. He lied to me. He didn't get back to me. I went to another $40,000 couple dinner at George Clooney's house. I said, brother, I'm still waiting to hear from you. I'm willing to sit down.
All right. So what about on the other side? What about Rubio and Paul and Cruz and Carson? What about Ben Carson?
All of them, all of them. I will sit down with all of them. You're going to address the American crisis. We need economic inclusion for every American.
All right. Will you promise me? You don't owe me anything. I mean, I don't mean to be out of line, but will you say to me that you will reach out to, through your channels, to Ben Carson and to Marco Rubio and to Ted Cruz and to Scott Walker and all the other candidates on the Republican side, the way you did to Clooney and Obama?
Absolutely. I don't care about any of these politicians. I love America. I want America to be stronger.
All right.
I don't care about these politicians. They're all temporary hired help.
All right.
They work
Byron,
for us.
Byron, good stuff. Please let us know how you make out with when you reach out to the Republicans, because I'm sure they'd be glad to meet with you. And I thank you so much, and I look forward to speaking to you again, sir.
President Barack Obama, call me. We got to fix this now.
All right. Byron Allen, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. We're coming back with 4-star Army General Ann Dunwoody.